Hi, and welcome to Sam's Tarot. I'm Sam, and I'm doing a little bit different today. Actually, I already recorded a video just a little while ago about some books I recommend for the Top Tarot. And now I'm going to do a walkthrough of my first deck in 2020, the Light Seers Tarot Mass Market Edition. And the first thing out of the bag that I have to say about this deck is it took me by surprise. Um, what do I mean by that? So I've been seeing some of the flip through videos. Obviously, it's a hot deck right now. A lot of collectors and enthusiasts are enjoying this deck. A lot of readers are really enjoying the artwork and how the symbolism on the card just really speaks to you. And all these things are true. Um, what surprised me is once I got the deck, how quickly it became familiar to me. And to the point that I got it yesterday, and today I went ahead and did my daily draw with it. Now, maybe this isn't a big deal for most of you out there, but for me, it sort of is. Usually, when I get a tarot deck, I sit on it, and I sit on it for a while, anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. And during that time, I will go through it a few times just to kind of familiarize myself with the artwork. And then how does it work with different moods? How does it work with some different readings? How does it work for draw of the day? Um, I do a deck interview type spread. And then I'll even do some meditations with individual cards before I actually really start using it. Uh, and when I say use it, I'm talking about for daily draw. And I know I just said I use it for daily draws, but that's like later on in the process, not right off the bat. Definitely not the second day I owned the deck. Um, but this deck felt so familiar to me as I looked through it last night, and I decided today that yeah, I wanted to see how it did as a daily pull, and I was not disappointed. So I figured I'd go ahead and do my own walkthrough of the deck. There's several of them out there, and what can I say? There are a lot of walkthroughs in this, but I know the walkthroughs has what helps me decide what decks I'm going to get or choose to get. Um, and sometimes it's because I watch several people and it's several different people saying the same thing. Sometimes it's because I've watched several people with a particular deck and they each say something a little bit different. So by going through even this kind of a popular heavy reviewed deck, maybe there's something that I bring to the table that otherwise would not have. So the first thing I'm going to talk about on the deck for the mass production is first off, I know there's a lot of bad reviews out there on the mass production, not from the artwork, but from the quality that Hay House did. And I have to say, from my deck here, it's I'm not. I'm satisfied, but this deck definitely does have some various cuts in it, and it's nothing that serious. Nothing that I'm worried about. I've got tons of decks that have worse than this. But it is something that I am going to be doing my first deck modification with this deck by at least edging these so that it'll have a uniform look. And while on the camera, it actually looks worse on camera than it does in person. You know how it is. Camera's always going to catch all those little flaws. To me, it does feel a little rough on the fingers. It doesn't feel necessarily quote unquote smooth. And honestly, compared to some of the reviews I said, though, that's the only, not even complaint, but the only maybe negative I would say about this deck from a physical point of view, anyway. But compared to a lot of people's reviews and experience, I apparently lucked out. I got a good copy here, in my opinion. I have heard that they're coming out with another printing of this in March, I think I want to say. And this is all secondhand knowledge from other reviewers and posts and stuff on Facebook and on various tarot forums. So it might be if you are looking to get this deck and you are concerned about those reviews, you might want to wait. That said, there's plenty of people out there who got a deck or they're fine with the deck. So you kind of know yourself how picky you are. And I don't mean that in a bad way by any stretch. But you know whether edges like this would bother you out of the box or not. And if that would bother you right off the bat, then wait. If it doesn't bother you, then by all means, please go ahead and grab it. Now, that said, the marketing on the box is good. So the box itself is a clamshell, nice and sturdy. Great colorization. One of the things that's neat is the design from the back of the card is in the box. And then on the top it says, and into the grave we follow like 1,000 flickering stars. And there in a sunlit hollow we lose and find what is ours. Love that little limerick. Dear light and shadow seer, may this deck help you find what is yours. XO Claire, is that her name, Claire? No, Chris Ann, excuse me, Chris Ann. And I actually was like, hey, is that just a print? And I'm positive it is. I mean, this is a mass market after all. But it still made it feel like it had that personal touch. And I dug it. Well, moving on, let's talk about the guidebook. The guidebook is a nice little chunky guidebook. I would love for this to come out in a full-size book. Artwork is done in black and white. So I'm one of the various things that my interest is papercraft, printing craft, how fonts and stuff work together. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. She uses several different fonts throughout her book. So you got a font for the title. You've got fold and a font and some boldness for meanings. You've got regular font for text and yet another font to call out a quote. So for the Fool, the quote is, "I'm ready for this adventure down my soul path." And I really find it visually appealing and interesting. Now, it starts off with talking about spreads. So spreads that you can use. It also, right off the bat, starts talking about reversals. And her philosophy is you can read them with or without reversals. And if you do read them with reversals, then she actually, so for right side up is the light seer. And then if you're going to read reversals, then this is the shadow seer. And so she breaks that up quite nicely for you, and then actually has you or wants you to do an exercise to find your light seer and your shadow seer within the deck. And I'm still working on that aspect. There's a couple cards that I can tell right now is probably going to be my shadow seer, but that's still part of the process of getting to know the deck. When my wife saw this deck, she literally teared up through almost all of, if not all of the major arcana. And if this deck hadn't pulled to me so strongly, I'd probably turn around and hand it to her right then and there. As it is, and hopefully she won't watch this video, otherwise she's going to learn them now. She will probably be getting this deck from me for her birthday coming up. But I've never seen my wife get so drawn to a deck as quickly. And again, here I am being drawn to it quickly too. And she has a nice little collection as well. And this will probably be the second deck that we have in common. The first deck we have in common is a Shadowscapes. So it's very, very rare that we actually collect the same deck. And this is going to be, will end up being one of them. I would like to see this come out in a full-size companion book, though. I know I would pick it up in a heartbeat for my shelf. So let's take a quick gander through some of the cards. A lot of this is not going to be new for you. There's a lot of walkthroughs and reviews on this. One of the things that I like is that she goes ahead and writes the card name on each of the cards, but it's done in a very non-intrusive way. Isn't that just gorgeous? And as you can see, the meanings of the cards just jump out at you. I mean, there is no mistaking for it. Rochelle in her videos does this beautiful walkthrough, and I love how she interprets the cards. And honestly, they're the same way I would interpret them. They're just that spot on. One of the other things that's neat is that as the suits go on, as from ace to king happen, the characters in the card age. So like here, the King of Cups is the oldest in the Cup suite. Same thing happens to Pentacles, Swords, etc. And there's a particular, I think it was the Pentacles, he looks the oldest. And I love that aspect of this. This is a great one. This is the Hierophant. And in the independent deck, it's called something else, but I absolutely love it. We know the Hierophant is usually about organized religions, usually and authorities, usually the things that come to mind. And the fact that we just have this Soul Seeker here, it's just awesome. This card is heart-wrenching. We all know the Three of Swords and what it represents. And there's no way that you can look at this card and not see the anguish and the pain someone is in. And as horrible it is, it's also frighteningly beautiful. And again, here's the Queen of Swords. Notice, she is an older woman with gray hair, green hair. Yet she's very confident. She is, able to fight. Not that she looks like she's looking for a fight, but the fact that she has that sword in her hand, is very indicative of how she can defend herself and the confidence for that. Look at this Moon card. Just gorgeous. The other thing this deck does really well is bring forth the elements. For wands, it being fire. Excuse me 1 second while I get this card. So for the wands being fire and cups, water, but even within the major arcana, the element that works the closest with the card is very well represented. Beautiful cards. Look at the sun. How can you not know that that is just pure happiness and joy, and good things are coming and success is coming? Satisfaction. I mean, I feel like I'm copying Rochelle now. It's exactly how she was doing it. The images are just so frank. You can't help but immediately talk about it. Beautiful High Priestess. And depending on what you see first, you'll either see her eyes closed or her eyes open. And honestly, it looks like it's her eyes are closed and then painted eyes on the outside. But when you first see them, or as a glance, might I know I did. I saw. Matter of fact, when I first saw the box, I didn't notice the painted eyes. So I only saw her with her eyes closed. And then when I saw the guidebook, I saw it as her eyes were open. So, yeah, just I like art that makes you think, that surprises you, that shows you something so clearly, that the surprise isn't that it's like a shock surprise. It's a surprise like how quickly you understand the artist's intent. And I think that's what has made this deck so successful and such a favorite. I mean, come on. How can you see this and not know that's Mother Earth, Mother Gaia? And that's the thing. These images that she she came up with, they're so universal that um, people from different walks of life that are reviewing this, they're all saying and seeing the same thing, and that is just phenomenal. And yet the images resonate. Um, I know when I was looking at this deck, I don't want to say fearful, but I had kind of in my head that this would probably be a fairly feminine deck. And one of the things that I noticed right off the bat when I was doing my first flip through is that it really isn't. Um, yes, there are a lot of feminine qualities to it, um, but I was surprised at um, how strong and neutral it was. Um, for every feminine image, there is masculine imagery in here as well, and not the toxic masculinity, but the type of masculinity some of us guys strive for. Here's that King of Pentacles, probably the oldest guy in the deck. When you look at them, but again, just awesome stuff here. Knight of Wands and all that fire energy. Yeah. How about this Fool? I think this is one of my favorite Fool cards of all time. You'll have to forgive if you hear the snarling and growling of the dogs outside. There's probably a squirrel that walked on the fence or something like that. Again, I just can't get over how strong these images are. This is a deck that I think would be great for beginning readers and beginning tarot, but it's also really good for those of us, well, at least myself anyway, who's been around the block with the tarot a time or two. Because these images are so fresh. When I first saw this deck, I recognized it as a modern art deck. And yet, I usually don't go for these type of modern artistics. It's just not really my style per se. But this art is just phenomenal. Look at that Eight of Cups. But for those a little more older hat, when it comes to tarot, it's a nice, deep, when reading these cards and seeing the symbology there. You don't have to overexert yourself to see the meanings or put the story together between a couple cards. And yet at the same time, the cards are so easy to understand and relate to that you can automatically and quickly pass this on to whoever you're reading for. And sometimes that means it's reading for yourself on that daily read that, I've only done it for the one day, but these are so quick and clear to me that the meaning is boom right there. So it's a very quick daily draw in comparison. And again, just death or rebirth. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. The card that's been following me through 2019, Temperance. Queen of Wands. Oops, sorry. Almost through. We've got just a few more cards left. Love this Lover's card. This guy looks like he should be riding a Harley, doesn't he? So this is quickly becoming a favorite deck, and adding this up with the for 2020 right now to be up there. And again, it seems so weird to say it when I've only had this deck less than 24 hours, but I'm actually already mentally putting this deck up there with my True Black deck with the Mary L. And even with the top deck, I mean, it's just quickly becoming that part of me. It's kind of uncanny because normally I don't have this type of response to a tarot deck. And I've got several tarot. I love collecting the tarot, so this isn't this isn't one of my first few tarot decks by any stretch of imagination, but yet it's already becoming like a trusted friend and guide. And like I've already had it for much longer than already told. Anyway, that's my walkthrough of the Light Seers Tarot. If you don't have your copy yet, if you've been thinking about it, I would highly suggest going ahead and grabbing it. If for whatever reason this deck just doesn't call for you, then that's fine. Not all decks are designed to call for all of us. But this is a beautiful deck, and definitely has a place in my collection at least. If you like the content here, please leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that little bell icon in the bottom so that way you'll get notified when I put out new content. And it's been wonderful getting to know a lot of the newer subscribers, so I appreciate you commenting. For those who have channels themselves, please leave your link to your channel down below. I'd love to come visit your channel and see what you're sharing. And with all that said, I will see you next time. And thanks for being here. You have a great day, and goodbye.